Thou shalt not be as straw before the wind, neither shalt thou be as the wind before the straw. When the ancient alchemists sought the elixir of immortality, they did not simply mix chemicals in a laboratory. They worked with the hidden forces of nature, fire and water, sun and moon, gold and silver, searching for a perfect equilibrium that transforms base metals into spiritual gold. This is the profound wisdom hidden within Arcanum 14, Temperance. Temperance is commonly described as the quality of moderation or self-restraint in eating and drinking. However, exploring the linguistic roots reveals something more profound. From the Latin temperare, meaning restrain, we get temperantia, which means moderation. This root gives us words like temperature and the tempering of metals with fire and water. In an esoteric and practical sense, temperance relates to the temperament of our character, our virtues, our vices, and psychological qualities, all connected to the elements found within Arcanum 14. It is only by annihilating the ego through Arcanum 13 that we can acquire temperance, balance. Temperance is serenity in action, serenity in thought, serenity in feeling. It is to be unshakable, relaxed, not from repression, but from comprehension through observation. When a blacksmith makes a sword, he tempers the steel in great adversity, alternating between fire and water, two extremes, in order to establish a balance, firm yet flexible, so that when sharpened, the blade can withstand the most severe battle conditions. Our internal practice is much the same thing. This allegory of the soul illustrates how our consciousness must learn to face extremes and thus forge inner temperance, inner balance, flexible yet firm, sharp, vigilant from moment to moment, observing inwardly. In life, we are consistently exposed to great ordeals, challenges of many sizes and shapes, in which we feel the fire of criticism or the coldness of solitude. We have to face these ordeals of the elements within and without, in our psychology and in the environment we move through day to day. This doesn't mean that we go looking for trouble, but that we learn to consciously and willingly suffer, voluntarily, whatever effects our past mistakes have created in this life. We have to learn how to be tempered, balanced like a master-crafted blade, a blade that is our awakening consciousness. By acquiring a state of inner serenity, of relaxed inner peace, we can handle anything, no matter how challenging our job, our career, our responsibilities and situations in life may be. We learn to face our karma with patience, faith, and intuition, not intellectualizing, thinking, what should I do, or what shouldn't I do, but comprehending in our heart spontaneously through the silent voice of our being, utilizing the practices of Arcanums 1 through 13, leading us to Arcanum 14. And 14 we see on the upper left of the card. We can meditate on this number, reflecting to comprehend it in many, many ways. There's 1, the magician, that which initiates anything, which is the most difficult part of any new venture. There's 4, the emperor, our spirit, Atman, our divine father. There's the Kabbalistic addition of 1 plus 4, which equals 5, the hierarch, the lord of karma, the 42 lords of karma, who oversee and deliver the cosmic law to each and every being based on their actions, their choices. Beyond these, the number 14 reveals a profound mystical meaning through equilibrium, 7 plus 7 equating to 14. This relates to the alchemical elixir of life sought by medieval philosophers. Kabbalistically, it represents the lower 7 bodies of the tree of life: Malkut, Yesod, Hod, Netzach, Tiferet, Geburah, and Hesed, or you could say the physical body, vital body, the emotional body, the mental body, the causal body, the body of consciousness, and the body of spirit, Atman. A perfect matrimony occurs between a man and a woman when they unite in these 7 planes of consciousness, working together with aligned thoughts, feelings, and will. This union forms Arcanum 14, the 14th tarot, symbolized by the 7 visible and 7 invisible rays of the sun on the card. The number 7 is significant because humans have 7 centers. We have the inferior intellectual center, the inferior emotional center. We then have the hybridized motor center, instinctive center, and sexual center. And then we have the superior intellect and superior emotional centers. Balancing these centers through spiritual work can help to subdue the intellect, can then inflame the heart with the spirit, and helps us to control our lower desires, leading to illumination through mastery of the 7 chakras as well, and far beyond. The Hebrew letter Nun is deeply esoteric. Like all letters in the original Hebrew alphabet, it connects to, of course, the Catholic tradition of nuns, representing the female element, the water element. And we all have inner waters we must learn to purify, which requires many deep inner efforts that are guided by our spirit and our being. The letter Nun can literally mean fish or movement, representing the waters of generation and regeneration, creative force, sexual force. Nun hides within the story of Jonah, who is swallowed by the great fish, the whale. Jonah descends into the abyss for 3 days, symbol of initiation, internal initiation. He rises again, having repented and purified. This allegory is, of course, an example for us. Nun is also hidden in the Hebrew word for Noah. The ark floats upon the waters. The letter Nun governs the waters of life and death. These waters can destroy or give life, depending on how they are used, depending on how we use our waters, our creative force. This purification, of course, involves our karma, our egos, our psychological me's and myself and I's, which are the causes that create the effects of our suffering. The waters of life descend from above, and our inner work teaches us to send those waters back up through pranayama, transmutation, alchemy, refining the waters, refining the energies into higher dimensions of the cosmos. The sign of Cancer relates to work with both fire and water. This symbol shows 2 circles with 2 lines encircling one another, mirroring the 2 jars held by the woman on the card. She demonstrates how we must balance water and fire through temperance, not too hot nor too cold. The sign of Jupiter relates to the alchemical process of transforming energies to achieve higher states. This symbol reminds us of Arcanum 4, the Emperor, our spirit, Atman, because we must always obey our being in life and in our inner work. The scepter with the 3 flowers and a rising serpent relates to Yetzirah, the waters of formation. As Samael on Veor teaches us, these 3 flowers also represent Sat, the innermost, our spirit, or Atman, Chit, Budi, the Valkyrie, or divine consciousness, related with Geburah, and Ananda, the superior manas or human soul related with Tiferet. This is known as the monad, Latin for unity. The three flowers can also represent the sacred fire, the raw matter, and the mixture of the two. This is the act of alchemy between husband and wife, but it is also related with transmutation. In the center, we see an angel wearing both the Trinity and the square, representing the four lower bodies of sin: the lunar mental body, the lunar astral body, the vital body, and the physical body, also lunar bodies. These are the multi-dimensional bodies we work on through the three factors of gnosis: death, meaning ego, elimination, dissolution; birth, meaning transmutation; and sacrifice for others, sacrifice for humanity, for our friends, our family, and eventually for all humanity. The sun above has 7 visible rays corresponding to the 7 planets, and 7 spiritual rays in which our inner spirit develops. There is the moon, Gabriel; there is the Mercurian ray, Raphael; the ray of Venus, Uriel; the ray of the sun, Michael; the ray of Mars, Samael; the ray of Jupiter, Zachariel; and the ray of Saturn, or Phiel. You can discover your own particular ray of your being through meditation by asking and praying to your being to reveal it in the internal worlds. I will leave some links in the video description for more resources on this topic. The 7 invisible rays represent the 7 chakras, our spiritual senses, which we have covered in previous videos in this series. The angel mixes these 2 elixirs, a gold cup with red elixir and a silver cup with white elixir. When combined through white tantra or alchemy between husband and wife, these create the elixir of longevity, also known as the fountain of youth or immortality, achieved by masters like Babaji, Sanat Kumara, Paracelsus, and of course, Master Jesus, masters like the Buddha. We, of course, have to learn to receive the unpleasant manifestations along this path to Arcanum 14, and these unpleasant manifestations will originate with our fellow man and woman. With comprehension, of course, we must receive them, and with gladness. When someone treats us with aggression, we respond with understanding, with patience, and love for that person who is criticizing us, for they are suffering within, and we must learn to see and comprehend this. In this way, we dissipate their anger, their violence, because, as Master Samael teaches us, kindness is a much more crushing force than anger. If we act with anger, if we try to coerce our neighbor to do what we want, we are performing black magic, because the mind that wants other people to think and feel and do as we want is egotistical, selfish. This is lower magic or black magic. To persuade others is a much more dynamic force than simply trying to get someone to think and do what we want, but persuading them from our consciousness. This is much more profound. Of course, this is also the danger of spiritual pride. We may think we know what is best for others, but only by tempering our own reactions can we truly help anyone by following the silent voice of our being. Sometimes, if we listen to the silent voice of our being, our intuition, we know that we must speak, and other times we know that we must remain silent. These ordeals, and many like them, that we face, they are not punishments, but opportunities to further forge our spiritual steel, our swords, in the internal war against our egos. Transmutation is essential for this esoteric work, whether working with a partner or as a single practitioner. Without properly transmuted fuel, we cannot investigate internal worlds within us during the day or while the physical body sleeps at night. For singles, Powerful transmutation can be achieved through practices like the 7 chakra vowels, especially the letter M and the letter S, or Ham-sa, a simple yet profound practice where you first relax completely, and second, you breathe in slowly through the nose while mentally pronouncing hum, and then third, hold the breath for up to 30 seconds or for as long as is comfortable, and then finally release gently and quickly through the mouth while quietly or mentally pronouncing sa. So that would sound like hum mentally as you breathe in, and then hold up to 30 seconds or 5 or 10 seconds, and then release gently the stomach, air in the belly through the mouth while pronouncing the sa. Transformation occurs at many octaves. Advanced practitioners can transform their bodies, for instance. This is known as shapeshifting through the Jinn state. But for most of us, for most students, another transformation is far more important, and that is the transformation of impressions. Our 5 physical senses are constantly taking in impressions. So we must learn to self-remember our being, right? This is the key of Saul. Subject, who am I? Object, what am I doing? Location, where am I? Where have I been? Where am I going? Where am I now in this now? We must also learn to observe inwardly and externally. This is to separate between observer and observed, the consciousness which observes, and all of that which is observed in the mental body of thoughts, the emotional body of emotions, the motor instinctive sexual body eventually. That takes time, but also externally as well as internally. And if we learn to consciously observe our ego's reactions to impressions in the mind, in the heart, in the motor instinctual center, in relation to what is happening externally in moment to moment, this is how we transform all impressions that we take in. And instead of those impressions feeding the egos within us, we are feeding our essence, we are feeding our being, and we are progressing along our internal path, you could say. This process, as I just described, you might notice there's a lot to it, and the mind might feel overwhelmed. And that's why it requires both great efforts, but great patience. We will forget ourselves many times, but we simply return to self-remembering and inner observation. We notice we aren't practicing Key of Saul. We notice that we are identified with a television show or a conversation or a work situation, whatever it might be, and we return to inner observation, Key of Saul. With repetition and infinite patience, we will improve infinitely. This purification process helps dissolve egos that may block us from finding a partner or succeeding in alchemy if we already have a partner. And when working with a partner in alchemy, we must constantly practice self-remembering and inner observation to transform those impressions that our egos might try to consume. And this, of course, we learn to combine with prayer and conscious imagination. And the same is true for singles transmutation, using active imagination in such a way, imagining the 2 channels of Ida and Pingala, or Adam and Eve, imagining the energies going all the way up, right, with the hum, and then into the pineal gland, and then with sa, the energies go into the heart center. But of course, this is something that we work our way up to. So if you're just beginning, it might be best to pray to your Divine Mother for help and to work on doing Ham-sa as consciously as possible, using Key of Saul, observing, observer, and observed, observing as consciousness, pray to divinity for help. And then, of course, we have transubstantiation in the Eucharist, which is a powerful divine rite that calls down the universal Christic force into our food and drink. As Samael Aun Weor instructs us, this should be practiced daily by any Gnostic student to provide energy for our inner work, especially for those working as a single. Anyone seeking to generate consciousness can practice the Eucharist in this way and receive much help from divinity. And all it requires is an altar, a piece of bread symbolizing the solar energy, and a cup of grape juice symbolizing the blood of Christ. I will provide a link in the description to a webpage and video that will go into more detail on what should be on the altar. It can be very plain, just a white cloth, an image of the Tetragrammaton, and a white candle is good if you can as well. Maybe some incense, maybe a quartz crystal even if you want to try and have all 4 elements represented. But with that altar, with the bread, with the grape juice, most importantly, organic grape juice that has not had the seeds removed, because the seed is where the solar force gathers in the grape. With that, you can pray on your knees or seated in front of the altar and recite the Our Father, and this creates an internal connection to the body of Christ and provides Christic atoms and energy for our spiritual development. Something else you can do every day, if it resonates, is to work with the rune Fa, because all of us experience spiritual blindness initially, and when we begin meditation, understanding may not always come to us immediately, so the rune Fa can help invoke solar light. Through consistent practice with runic yoga, such as the rune Fa, we gradually can gain insight, recognizing our errors each day, moment to moment, and find motivation to improve. And I will display an image here on screen to show you what the posture for the rune Fa looks like. And this is, of course, very reminiscent of ancient Egyptian images, because they did these practices. They did the runic practices. So you combine this with, you cross your arms over your chest. It's very important. You have your right arm over your left arm. And you want to have your hands on the shoulders, right arm over the left, hands on the shoulders. If you study Kabbalah through these videos, you'll know that these shoulders relates to our innermost, right? Relates to our spirit and our divine consciousness. And with the arms crossed in this way, you can mentally, or ideally you can verbally say, "Marvelous forces of love, revive my sacred fires, so that my consciousness will awaken." Then you hold up your arms as displayed in the image. Ideally this is done in the morning, although you can do it any time of day, but you want to face the east, face the sun. You imagine the spiritual sun and the rays going into your hands as you pronounce these mantras. Fa, Fe, Fi, Fo, and then Fu. Of course, you want to extend each of these as long as you can, right? So the first one, Fa, you would go Fa, and this needs to be done aloud because the posture that's displayed in the images for the rune is like a cosmic circuit, and you are receiving, you want to imagine the rays from the astral sun entering through your palms and going to each of the chakras that is vibrating with each of the mantras, right? So Fa is the lungs, Fe is the throat chakra, Fi is the third eye and crown, Fo is the heart chakra, and then Fu is the solar plexus. And this can give us a lot of divine willpower. And if you struggle with motivation and inspiration to do the inner work, and you find that your egos are pulling you into old habits most days, and you struggle in this way, I highly recommend the rune Fa. And of course, you can reach out to me in the comments on YouTube or on the Discord in private messages or in our Discord group if you would like some more clarifications, as I know this is it seems a bit complicated at first sight, but it's actually quite easy. At first, our understanding will be limited. We may not know how to convey Gnostic teachings intuitively or what path to take for work or to repay karma. But with effort and patience, each day will bring greater comprehension. We will be able to share the Gnostic teachings and know how to do so intuitively when it should be shared, and we will know when to not share them. We'll know when we must remain silent and simply be around friends and family and do the inner work. In this way, we will pay back our karma in the most ideal way possible. And through this patient work, we go beyond mere emotional or mental control, but true conscious temperance, which is a state of consciousness that can face both the fire of criticism and the cold of solitude with deep serenity and relaxed comprehension. So remember, like the blacksmith who knows precisely when to heat and when to cool the blade, we must learn to navigate the extremes of life from day to day with consciousness, to transform the impressions we receive and thus transform the lead of our personality into higher spiritual gold through that tempering process, through each day, and remain vigilant. Thank you for your time, patience in creating these videos. I know this one took a little while longer. Wishing you much inner love, inner light, inner joy, peace, and serenity on your path.